Hi, this is Julie with Beadaholique, and today I want to show you how to make this lovely compact using crystal clay and a Chaton mix put out by Swarovski crystal. And you can see inside there's a mirror, and then we got this lovely piece of filigree bedecked with crystals. I'm going to show you how to do this, but we're going to do this one in pink. What you're going to need is you're going to need your compact. See what it looks? It's got this nice little indent of a bezel setting on the front. You're going to need a piece of filigree. This is silver plated, and you can see it's going to fit perfectly within that bezel. You'll need a Chaton mix, and it comes in a variety of sizes and shapes and colors in there. And then you're also going to need some crystal clay. Crystal clay is a two-part epoxy clay. This one is in cotton candy pink, and then if you're curious, on this one here we used a sage green. No tools are required for this project. Everything you need is going to come in your packages. Two optional items, which I find make life a little bit easier, is this little triangle tray to pour my crystals into, and a magic pick, which is going to help you to pick up your crystals. Again, those are totally optional. You don't really need them to do this project. It's just a preference. So first off, we're going to want to go ahead and open up our clay. Just pull the whole packet out and set the box aside. You'll notice on the back side of the packaging, there are step-by-step instructions on how to use the clay, which is very handy. So you have part A, which is your color, and you have part B, which is your hardener. Once you mix these up, you're going to have about an hour to an hour and a half work time. And then there's going to be no baking required. They're just going to air dry. They're going to cure in 12 to 24 hours on their own. In with your kit, you get these little sample pack of Chatons, which are lovely. We're not going to use these for this project, so you could just set them aside for another project. You're going to get a toothpick, with a little bit of beeswax on the tip. Now, this is going to do the same function as the magic pick. It's going to help you to pick up the stones. I find the magic pick works a little bit easier, so I'm going to use it, but you could definitely use the beeswax toothpick as well. And then you're also going to get a pair of gloves. So before putting on your gloves, wash your hands really good. Get any type of dirt, lint, anything off of your hands, because you will be touching the clay with your bare fingers at some point. And if you have any dirt on your hand, it's going to actually embed into your clay. So you want to make sure they're real clean. But for the first part, we definitely want to put the gloves on. I also take off any rings that I have on, just because I'm going to be rolling the clay in my hands and I don't want to have any object interfere with my clay. The easiest way to go about this is just open up your package. You're going to want to eyeball about how much clay you think you're going to need. You'll get better at estimating as time goes on. I find I usually take too much clay off instead of too little. So I always usually like to have another bezel setting handy that I can put my extra clay into in case I mix too much so it doesn't go to waste. But to start, I'm just going to pinch off a little bit, about like that, maybe a little bit more. Put this clay aside. Go ahead, just wrap it back up and put it back into its baggie. But with this amount here, I want to roll it into a ball. And I'm not rushing here. I have a full hour to work with this, so I don't feel any pressure. So there's one ball. And now to measure, you could use a scale, but you can also just make two equal balls. And it is important that you have equal parts of part A and part B. I'm going to roll part B into a ball, put it by side of part A. Those look pretty even to me. So I feel like I'm good to go. I'm just going to put my hardener away. Normally I would take the time to actually put those back in their plastic bags right now, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'll do that afterwards. Okay, so now you just squish the two parts together. And if you've worked with polymer clay, this is very much like what you do when you mix colors. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to mix them so it's one solid color without any marbling or striations. So you see how I have that big streak right there? So that's definitely not ready. And it's sticky. It does have a sticky consistency to it, and that's why you're wearing the gloves. One thing to note is if you're going to be doing a round shape, you're going to want to form this into a round ball. If you're going to be doing an oval, you want to end up with like an egg type shape. Square, a little bit more square shape. So whatever shape your setting is, shape you're going to want to have your clay end up in when you get done with mixing it. All right, so that looks pretty good to me. I don't see any streaks. I might just do one more squish for good measure. And I'm trying to smooth it out so I don't have any of the wrinkles or lines where I squished my clay together. Okay, that looks good. I'm just going to put it in the middle of my compact. I'm going to take off my gloves. Don't rip these off. You're going to want to use them for the rest of your clay, so just take them off carefully and set them aside. Now what you want to do is you want to pat your clay down in the middle and flatten it out. And again, this is why it was important that your hands were clean. And just work your way from the middle out, and you're just pushing. And I actually want my clay to be a little bit more raised in the center than at the edges, so I'm going to go a little bit thinner as I go towards the edge. But I am pushing from the middle too if I feel like I need a little bit more clay. And I'm just going to go up to that lip. I'm not going to go over the side. You see it's a little bit rough looking, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and finesse it a little bit more, just so that it is nice and uniform. I'm just pushing it gently all the way around, right up to that edge. Okay, when you're happy with how it looks, what I want you to do then is take your finger and just rub it on the top. We want to try to get rid of some of those fingerprints and also feel if there's any obvious lumps to it. Remember how I said I wanted it to be a little thinner here and a little thicker here, so I'm going to just make sure that I feel a little bit of like a raised dome. So I'm not going to worry about that type of bump, but if there's any lumps or anything along the edges, that's what I want to get rid of. And you just get rid of them by pushing on it. I'm going to push it towards the middle. So I'm not pulling the clay, I'm just smoothing it. You kind of will see that it starts to almost look a little shiny, and that's because I don't have that texture of my fingerprints anymore, so it looks smoother. I actually have a little lump right there, uneven, so I'll just pat that down and go back to doing some more smoothing. You can tell I have a little mark right there, so I'm just going to try to pat it out and then smooth it over. Okay, once you're happy with how that looks, you're going to take your filigree piece and you're going to position it. So I want to have this even with the little clasp right here. I'd like to have that in line. So I'm going to just carefully lay it on top. Make sure it looks even to me. Then I'm going to press it down. And I'm going to press on top of the heavier pieces so I don't put any more fingerprints in here. And you'll actually see the epoxy clay kind of pull up a little bit, which is good. It's almost having like a pillow effect. You want to push it in enough that the clay does seep through the filigree holes a little bit, and that's going to help to keep the filigree in place once the crystal clay is dry. Okay, so we have that part done. Now we get to add our stones. So I have a Chaton mix here, and it's really nice because I do have all those colors. I'm going to open it up. What I want to do is I want to put these into my tray. The little triangle tray is nice. One, it contains it, but you can also shake it up and get the crystals to turn to the other side. So I want to show you how this works with the toothpick. So first off, I'm going to start with my center stone. And that beeswax picks that stone right up, and I'm going to place it in the middle and just push into place. It's kind of a big stone, so I can use my finger and just push that into the middle. So that's how the beeswax toothpick works. A magic pick works very much the same way. has a little bit bigger handle, so I find it's a little bit easier to work with when I'm doing a lot of stone placing, but you absolutely can do this project with just the beeswax toothpick. So now I'm just going to pick up a Chaton and I'm going to place it into my clay and press it so that the edge of the Chaton is just a little bit below the edge of the clay. I'm going to do that all the way around with the design I want. You can place these however you want. Now I'm going to do another row. I'm going to choose a little bit darker pink. I think I'm going to add even another color, this pretty purple. You can see I deviated from the pattern I had on the green one, and that's part of the fun of crystal clay and using these Chatons. So you really can just let your creativity flow, and wherever inspiration takes you, just go with it, because it's so easy to just place these little stones into the clay. All right, so once you're all done and you have all the stones how you want them, go ahead and lightly just press down on them. You don't want to get fingerprints in there again, but you do want to just make sure that they're set and then wiggled out while you're placing the others. There you go. And what we're going to do is we're going to let this sit and we're going to set it aside for overnight, 12 to 24 hours, and then it's ready to go. And that is how you make a compact using crystal clay and Chatons.